It looked like Pride Weekend was going to get a wet start. Raymond Donald Hong at Twin Peaks has more details.
Yes, Roberta, but it was cold and drizzly Friday night, and you needed an umbrella to stay dry. But the clouds have cleared the air, and it's getting a little bit warm up here on Twin Peaks. Pride Weekend got an early start with the Trans March and Rally in Dolores Park on Friday 2 days earlier. Now in its 9th year, the Trans March in San Francisco is the largest trans-led unifying event that demonstrates the power of community. 9 years ago, the first Trans March was started in response to the brutal murder of Gwen Araujo by 4 men. The case ended with a mistrial, and this defining moment inspired countless trans, gender non-conforming people and allies to rally and rise up against transphobia.
A few community advocates gathered and sent out an email, and we all came together and marched for the first time. And it was in response to not only the hate crime, but our need to stand together as a community. It was a really grassroots effort. There was no real steering committee. In the years that followed, a steering committee did form, and it became really one of the first trans marches in history.
This year's Trans March is different from previous years with the inclusion of youth and elders.
We had a youth and elder brunch where we brought together for the first time families with trans youth and elders from the community. They were able to share their stories, and hopefully the elders inspired some youth to continue this work.
San Francisco leads other cities in the U.S. for its acceptance and inclusion of the transgender community.
In San Francisco, the police department is actually educated. They go through a great training to make sure that people understand the trans community. But in other places of the country, there's no such training. That's just San Francisco.
This is a wonderful community, one of my favorite events. Been here every one of the 9 years. We're going to have our 10th anniversary next year. And let me just say very sincerely and with a full heart that it has been a real honor, privilege, and pleasure working with the trans community, going back to my days on the Board of Supervisors when we formed the first Transgender Civil Rights Implementation Task Force, from which came the first of its kind local ordinance making sure that there was equal access to the county health plan for our transgender employees of the city and county of San Francisco.
We are working with you tonight. Tonight we march with you. Tomorrow and the weekend we celebrate with you. And every day forward we fight with you to end discrimination, stop barriers, to increase employment and to decrease unemployment in our transgendered community. You have our commitment to do that together with you.
But the community has a long way to go before they experience full equality.
We continue to have an increase in hate crime. It's really tragic, and it's very, it's deplorable to see so many of us being killed because we are trans. Just this year, actually in April, Brandy Martell was murdered in Oakland. She was shot because she was trans-identified, and to date they haven't caught anyone, although there were witnesses in the area. And she was buried without dignity. She was actually buried with her birth name versus her chosen name, which matched her gender identity. And although we have protections here and this is known as a safe haven, we still have so much work to do here. There are trans-inclusive policies for our public schools. However, youth still come and talk about the bullying that they experience in school. So even policies and laws don't make a difference. It's the people, the education that makes the difference.